Welcome to the Greenway with Mac, a channel dedicated to active transportation. This video is the second part of Bicimetro Route 2, which started near the port and primarily went through Turia Park. The route of this video is the remaining route of Bicimetro Route 2, which continues north and slightly west to the main metro station in Benimamet. This video starts right outside of the Biopark, or the Zoo of Valencia, which is a great destination on its own. Unlike a typical zoo that has a lot of animals in cages, this is one that has a lot of animals that have a decent amount of room to roam. The environment that they are in makes it look more natural. So we thought it was really unique and interesting and definitely a good destination to go to if you are a person that likes to go to zoos. We went there once and brought our kid there and we had a really great time. This area is all part of Park de Capçalera, and I just thought it was stunningly beautiful. The rock work that they had out here that formed these walls, and how the park is built around this lake, I thought was just really interesting. I could have come out here and spent a lot of evenings hanging out and taking my kid to the playground or having a happy hour. For us, it was a few miles away, so we didn't get out here too much as a family. The main reason I was out here was when we were exploring the more rural parts of Valencia. You would continue straight here to follow the river and stay in the fluvial Turia. The route suggested for Bicimetro Route 2 took us north instead, so we exited here to get up to the road. While we are taking the Bicimetro route on this journey, I'll share that this might be the only time out of about 25 trips where we left the fluvial Turia here. Every other time we continued along the path of the river because it is really the best place to bike. There are either protected bike lanes or a wide dirt trail that keeps us almost completely separated from people and vehicles. Since it is largely on dirt, you will want a bike that can handle that surface. We both rode on mountain bikes or hybrids, but we did see people on traditional road bikes as well. The route of the river goes northwest and is the gateway to towns such as Ribeirão de Turia, Benaguacil, and eventually Iria. This river got rerouted and no longer goes through the park and is now a man-made canal that runs south and then eventually out to the Mediterranean Sea. And it's not too difficult to follow on its own. I do have some video footage out here that I've been meaning to share, but I'm always just trying to find the right way to do that without spamming you all. If you are interested in riding off the street and you want to get a lot of miles in and you don't mind riding on the dirt, then this is really an amazing gateway to head west and a little bit north to explore routes that go adjacent to the river. You'll find some dedicated bike bridges that take you back and forth across the river, and it was really, really enjoyable. Sometimes the sections are open and there's not a lot of foliage around and you might be a little bit exposed on a warm day. But there are sections that have some pretty dense trees and are just really lovely to ride through and next to. You could come out and pack a lunch and enjoy a picnic out in the trees, or just come out and ride for 50, 60, 70 kilometers and not have to worry too much about people and vehicles. Benimamet is a bit of a disconnected island when it comes to bike infrastructure, so riding the metro to get there would be my recommended way to visit the village for the most vulnerable bike riders. If you want an alternative route back to Valencia other than simply turning around, then any combination of these routes can get you there in the comfort of protected lanes. Since this video is a continuation of Bicimetro Route 2, that means that we are headed to the Benimamet station. This is a neighborhood that is northwest of the city of Valencia. There are a few metro stations in Benimamet. There also is Les Carolines Fira station, Canteria station as well. And so we'll be right in the central area of Benimamet when we finish this ride. And so to get there, we're going to be riding on Avenida de Pio Baroja. Off to the left is going to be open space and farms, and then over to the right is the border of the city of Valencia. Technically, it looks like Benimamet is a neighborhood that is part of Valencia, but it would be the point that is furthest northwest. But Paterna and Burjasot seem to be separate cities. To get out to Benimamet, we will be in protected bike lanes for a big chunk of it, but there will be one section where we go onto a pretty rural road with not a ton of traffic, and so that was never our preference when Lane and I were out here riding. We wanted to avoid drivers as much as possible, but in this case we were following the route of Bicimetro Route 2, and so this is what it was. This isn't the only way to get out there. I think you could take a different route where you stay in protected bike lanes the entire way, but I just wanted to explain why our route goes this way and heads on a dirt section and then eventually that car road without any protection. And here is the section where following Bicimetro's instructions brought us into the street. There is not a lot of traffic on this street, but we did get passed by cars at a distance and speed that I didn't love. There are so many great places to ride in this area that I just feel like it is an unnecessary risk to ride on the roads at all. From here until our destination, I would avoid taking this trip with anyone but advanced cyclists. But that's why I make these videos. You can see what it's like before you come out here and decide if it meets your standards for safety. I don't really think it's an unsafe route for most users, but I would not recommend it for less experienced riders. The intersection where we moved into the street is only about one large block from No Mestalla, and I have to tell you the story of the massive concrete skeleton that has stood as a silent, sun-bleached monument to ambition and economic collapse for nearly 2 decades. New Mestalla was supposed to be the crown jewel of European football, but instead became the world's most famous ghost ground. In 2007, Valencia was riding high from winning 2 La Liga titles and a UEFA Cup, and the club's then president, Juan Soler, unveiled plans for a modern world-class stadium. The original 80,000-seat design was breathtaking, with a stunning aluminum shell surrounding an intricate wood trim. They broke ground on August 1st, 2007, with an optimistic date set for the 2009-10 season. It was going to be the best stadium in Europe, a high-tech fortress that would symbolize Valencia's status as a global soccer powerhouse. But the dream began to crumble almost as soon as they started pouring the concrete, as the global financial crisis of 2008 hit Spain really hard, devastating the real estate market. Part of Valencia's plan to fund construction was by selling the land of their current home, the original Estadio Mestalla, and that value evaporated as property values tanked. In February of 2009, with debts over 350 million euros, they stopped working at the site. In addition, during early construction in May of 2008, a scaffolding collapse took the lives of 4 workers, which hung an even darker shadow over the project. And so for 16 years, the stadium remained a hollow shell, and it became a local landmark for all the wrong reasons. I used to stare at it as I would ride by every once in a while when I was exploring this area, and it was just a huge bummer to see the stadium half built but had no prospect for being finished. After a lot of years of false starts and some bitter disputes between club owners and local authorities, they actually changed owners of the club. They recently had a breakthrough, and in late 2024 to early 2025, they were able to get a 322 million euro financial package that was backed by the banks, and then they used the funds from the La Liga CVC deal, and that cleared the path for them to resume work. And so as of February of 2026, construction has moved into an intensive new phase, and specifically on a redesigned roof. Workers are currently installing 50 massive steel pillars, each weighing about 30 tons, to support a cutting-edge 4,800-ton roof. Renderings depict it as a tensioned veil supported by vertical masts and those 50 steel pillars. The latest renderings of the stadium are a significant shift from the original closed aluminum design to a more open Mediterranean architectural style. And while the original stadium was going to have 80,000 seats, they trimmed it to a still impressive 70,044. The new facade is characterized by flowing open balconies and walkways, and so this design allows fans to view the city from the upper tiers, which integrates the city into the urban landscape rather than walling it off. And I personally think this is a nice touch because their current stadium does feel like you're walled in and you don't really have great views of the city, even though it's really close to the downtown city center. Unless they have setbacks, it looks like the roof is expected to be completed in April of 2027, and that the club should receive the final certificate of completion later in July of 2027. That would allow the club to move in and play the 2027 to 28 La Liga season there. There's a good chance that New Mestalla will be one of the venues of the 2030 FIFA World Cup, which is being hosted by Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. Benimamet is home to a couple of large landmarks. One is the Feria of Valencia, which is one of the largest exhibition and trade fair centers in Spain, and the other is the Luis Puig Velodrome, which is a premier venue for track cycling and athletics. We are approaching a bridge, and if we leave the road right here, we get to a separated section for people walking and rolling. The rail tracks used to run right through the middle of Benimamet, dividing it in half as part of the Valencia Tram and Railway Company. In 2008, they demolished the station and buried the tracks that passed through. The new Benimamet station opened in 2011. In 2018, the Benimamet Linear Park opened in the area that used to be those tracks. Now it's a long park with a great bike lane and walking space that, instead of dividing the town, creates an open space that works as a magnet to bring the communities on each side of the old tracks together. We will see all of it once we arrive at the destination of this video. On a side note, this is what they are planning to do in downtown Valencia by both of the train stations. Right now they have the Central Park that on the east side is currently a park, but on the west side there are a ton of railroad tracks that lead south out of the city, and eventually they plan to bury those tracks. When they do that, it will create a giant park that stitches these neighborhoods back together, strengthening the city's urban fabric by attracting all to a shared green space. Santiago Calatrava was born in Benimamet on July 28, 1951, and at the time, Benimamet was a relatively small village. Plaza del Doctor Jimeno abuts the parish church of San Vicente Martir, which serves as the historical and spiritual heart of Benimamet, representing centuries of cultural transition. According to local tradition, the church stands on the site of a former Muslim mosque, a common historical pattern following the 13th century Reconquista by King James I. Santiago Calatrava was born in Benimamet on July 28, 1951, and at the time it was a relatively small village. His childhood home is about 200 meters to our right at Calle de Rafael Tenes Estrich, number 20. It appears to be just a regular residence, but if you're curious, it would be a quick side trip from here. It was in the original directions from Bicimetro, which I can't seem to find online anymore. Calatrava was already attending art classes by the age of 8, where he developed his skills as a drawer. The young artist spent a lot of time watching and drawing birds, and was fascinated by the way that a static form could just suddenly erupt into motion. He referred to this as a zoomorphic curiosity, the study of living forms. And you can see this in his most iconic structures, such as the Milwaukee Art Museum, the Turning Torso, and the Oculus in New York City. Calatrava's designs at the City of Arts and Sciences are inspired by nature, and his love of animals and motion developed from that young age, which served him well as he became one of the world's most renowned architects. He left Valencia and tried to study art in Paris at the age of 17, but after the 1968 student revolts, he returned home and found a book by Le Corbusier, and it was in this book that he realized that he had a passion for architecture. This was the ultimate canvas where his love and passion of art and science could come together. There is a great bike lane here by the station as part of the neighborhood's linear park, but it is an isolated segment. Depending on your comfort in riding in the street, this is not the best place to visit by bike. We are surrounded by great bike paths, and one I recommend is just east of CV35. That protected path follows CV35 nearly all the way north to Yiria. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you on the next Bicimetro route.